Imagine being locked inside a prison where escaping is almost impossible, and for thousands of kilometers in every direction there is nothing but snow. So what will you do then? The story begins in a cold and isolated prison in Siberia. Several German soldiers are standing in a line. After World War II ended, Russia captured many German soldiers and turned them into prisoners. Every day they were forced to work in coal mines. The surprising part was that the prison did not have extremely heavy security. Even so, no prisoner ever tried to escape. The reason was the prison's dangerous location. As far as anyone could see, there was nothing except endless snow. The nearest human settlement was nearly 14,000 kilometers away. Even if someone managed to escape, surviving the freezing cold of Siberia was almost impossible. Surrounded by endless ice and snow, no prisoner had the courage to run away. But among them was one man who was different. He was very smart and he had only one dream. He wanted to escape from this prison and return to his wife and daughter. His name was Clemens Forel. He had been sentenced to spend 25 years in this prison, but Clemens refused to waste half of his life behind these walls. He thought about only one thing: finding a way to escape. One day, luck finally gave him a chance. Clemens quietly hid inside a train that was carrying coal, and the train took him away from the prison. The moment he crossed the prison walls and looked up at the stars shining in the open sky, he felt truly free. But that freedom did not last for long. A short distance later, the train was stopped. When Clemens carefully looked outside, he saw a Russian soldier pointing a gun straight at him. Unfortunately, he was caught right there. As punishment for trying to escape, he received a much harsher sentence. This time, he was locked inside an open-air cell. There was no roof above him. Only the open sky and the freezing cold surrounded him. The temperature inside that cell was so low that Clemens could barely survive. To make things even worse, it started raining during the night. He stayed inside that open cell not for a few hours, but for 2 full days. Through the freezing cold and non-stop rain, Clemens somehow managed to stay alive. 2 days later, the prison warden came to his cell and finally let him out. Surprisingly, the warden did not torture him himself. He simply looked at Clemens and said, "Your friends have been waiting for you." At first, Clemens did not understand what he meant. But when he returned to the other prisoners, he saw them standing there with sticks and wooden clubs in their hands. They were furious at him because they had also been punished for his escape attempt. For the past 2 days, every prisoner in the camp had been kept hungry. Now Clemens finally understood what the warden had meant when he said, "Your friends are waiting for you." The moment Clemens reached the other prisoners, they rushed toward him. They attacked him with sticks and wooden clubs. They beat him without showing any mercy. By the time the beating ended, Clemens was badly injured. His condition became so serious that he had to be taken to the prison hospital. The doctor working there was also a German prisoner. When Clemens finally woke up, he looked at the doctor and said that he wanted to escape from the prison one more time. He asked for his help. The doctor was shocked to hear this. Even after everything Clemens had suffered, he still refused to give up. The doctor tried to convince him. He said that escaping from this prison alive was almost impossible. Even if he somehow got out, surviving the freezing cold of Siberia would be extremely difficult. The doctor stayed silent for a moment. Then he said, "But there is another truth. If you stay here, you will probably die anyway. The coal mines where you work are filled with dangerous carbon dust. It slowly enters your body and can cause deadly diseases like cancer. Staying here is just as dangerous." After thinking about it, the doctor told Clemens that he should make one final attempt to escape. He opened his cabinet and took out all of his warm clothes, boots, and other useful supplies. He handed everything to Clemens because he wanted him to be fully prepared this time. Then the doctor shared an important piece of information. He told Clemens that Russian soldiers often hid food near the railway tracks so they could easily find it whenever they needed it. He knew this information could help Clemens survive during his journey. Along with the supplies, the doctor also gave him a gun so he could protect himself if necessary. In fact, the doctor had collected all these things for himself because he had once planned to escape from the prison too. But just 1 week earlier, he had learned that he was suffering from cancer. He believed he had no more than 1 month left to live. That was why he decided that Clemens should get this chance instead. Before Clemens left, the doctor handed him a lunchbox. He said, "If you survive and make it home, please deliver this to my family. Tell them that I am no longer alive." That same night, Clemens used the darkness to escape from the prison once again. This time, he did not hide inside a train. Instead, he chose to continue on foot. He kept walking through the entire night. Even after sunrise, he did not stop because he was afraid that the Russian soldiers might catch him again. The next morning, when the warden discovered that Clemens had escaped, he immediately went to the doctor's room. He was certain that the doctor had helped him escape. But by the time the warden reached the doctor's room, it was already too late. The doctor had taken his own life. He knew that as soon as the warden learned about Clemens' escape, he would be tortured without mercy. After that, the warden sent several Russian soldiers to search for Clemens. He gave them a clear order. Clemens had to be found alive and brought back to the prison. The soldiers searched the nearby area for many days, but they could not find a single sign of him. In fact, luck was on Clemens' side. Heavy snowfall kept covering his footprints. Because of that, it became harder and harder for the soldiers to track him. him. After many days of searching, most of them believed that Clemens had already frozen to death in the terrible cold, but the warden refused to believe it. He knew that Clemens was a strong man and would not give up so easily. That was why he ordered the soldiers to keep searching. Meanwhile, Clemens was still alive. He kept moving forward with determination. He crossed one snowstorm after another and never stopped. 9 days after escaping from the prison, he suddenly heard the sound of dogs barking. He quickly turned around and saw a sled rushing toward him at high speed. Before he could understand what was happening, the sled passed right over him and continued forward. Suddenly, Clemens opened his eyes. He realized it had only been a dream. The truth was that he had been walking for 9 straight days. By now, all of his food was gone. Hunger and exhaustion had made his body extremely weak. Every step became more difficult than the last. Even then, Clemens refused to give up. He gathered the little strength he had left and kept moving. A few more days passed, and finally his body could not take it anymore. Weakened by hunger, Clemens collapsed in the snow and lost consciousness. A few hours later, he slowly opened his eyes. He heard a strange sound nearby. He looked carefully and spotted a seal in front of him. The moment he saw it, hope returned to his eyes. Clemens quickly pulled out his gun and tried his best to aim. But because of his weakness and exhaustion, he missed the shot. The seal immediately started running away. After so many days, this was his first real chance to survive. He did not want to lose it at any cost. He immediately ran after the seal, but while chasing it, the ice suddenly cracked beneath him. Clemens fell straight into the freezing water. During the fall, he also injured his leg. Even with the pain, he somehow managed to climb back out. Then he continued chasing the seal. A moment later, he was about to aim again. But the seal disappeared behind a large rock. Clemens slowly moved closer. After a few seconds, he saw it again. This time, the seal was just about to jump back into the water. At that exact moment, Clemens fired his last bullet. Luckily, the shot hit the seal. The moment Clemens saw that the seal was dead, he was filled with happiness. Now he no longer had to worry about food during his journey. After many days, he finally ate a full meal. He rested for a while and then started his long journey once again. Throughout this entire trip, he was completely alone. Everywhere he looked, there was nothing but endless white snow. Living in such an empty place could easily affect a person's mind. That was why Clemens kept talking to himself. He kept encouraging himself so he would not lose hope and would continue moving forward. He also checked his compass again and again to make sure he stayed on the right path and did not get lost in the frozen wilderness. Days slowly turned into weeks. Before he realized it, 2 full months had passed. After walking for 2 straight months, Clemens suddenly noticed a small tree standing in the middle of the white landscape. The moment he saw it, he became overwhelmed with joy. He ran toward the tree and hugged it. That small tree was a sign that he had finally crossed the endless frozen plain. It also meant that a forest was waiting ahead. As he continued walking, everything happened exactly as he expected. The endless snow finally came to an end, and a thick forest appeared in front of him. After spending so much time surrounded by snow, he was incredibly happy to see it. He gathered some wood from the forest and lit a fire. Then, for the first time in many months, he enjoyed a peaceful night's sleep, but he had no idea what the next day would bring. Meanwhile, the warden was still searching for Clemens. He ordered his search team to check every area within a 500-kilometer radius. At the same time, Clemens was making his way through the forest when a powerful snowstorm suddenly hit the area. The wind became so strong that even huge trees were being ripped out of the ground. Clemens tried to keep moving forward, but suddenly a massive tree snapped and crashed directly on top of him. Luckily, later that same evening, 2 men happened to pass through the area. They were traveling there in search of gold. They found Clemens just in time and rescued him, saving his life. After that, the 3 of them continued the journey together. Several days later, they finally left the long frozen region behind. Soon they reached a river. To cross it, they built a small boat using wooden logs. As they floated across the river, they started talking to each other. They shared stories from their childhood and passed the time. But suddenly, the river's current became much stronger. Their small boat slowly started drifting out of control. As the current grew faster, one of the men lost his balance and fell straight into the water. He did not know how to swim. Within seconds, he started sinking. The moment Clemens saw this, he jumped into the freezing river without thinking twice. Fighting against the icy water and the strong current, he managed to grab the man. After a hard struggle, he pulled him safely back to the shore. In the end, Clemens saved his life. But while this was happening, their third companion left both of them behind and continued alone. He was a very greedy man. He believed that neither of them would survive. So he also took his companion's gold for himself. A short time later, when Clemens and the rescued man finally reached the camp, the man became furious after seeing what his so-called friend had done. Filled with anger, the man picked up his gun. Without wasting another second, he shot his greedy companion and killed him. After that, Clemens and the man gathered their supplies and continued their journey. They kept walking for many more months. They hoped that sooner or later they would find a place where people lived. But time passed and winter returned once again. The forests around them were soon covered by a thick blanket of snow. The man was carrying a lot of heavy supplies. Walking through the deep snow became harder for him every day. Seeing this, Clemens offered to help. He said, "Give me your bag for a while. It will make your journey easier." But the man suddenly became suspicious. He thought that Clemens wanted to steal his gold. Because of that fear, he attacked Clemens and pushed him to the ground. Clemens hit the ground and lost consciousness. After some time, he slowly opened his eyes. He saw a pack of wolves moving toward him. To save himself, he quickly climbed a nearby tree. But while he was climbing, one of the wolves grabbed his leg. At that exact moment, the weak tree snapped in half and Clemens fell back to the ground. Now he believed that his end had finally come. Suddenly, the sound of gunshots echoed through the forest. Clemens slowly opened his eyes again. He saw several wolves lying dead while the others had run away. A group of hunters from the area had arrived just in time and saved his life. They took Clemens to their village, where the villagers treated his injuries and took good care of him. After years of pain, struggle, and endless walking, Clemens had finally reached a place where people lived. He was overjoyed to see human faces again. He stayed in the village for several days, and the villagers looked after him with great kindness. One day, a letter arrived in the village. It was sent by the same prison warden. The letter said that a German prisoner had escaped from the prison. It also warned that anyone who gave him shelter would be treated as a traitor. As soon as Clemens heard this, he understood that staying there would put the villagers in danger. If he remained in the village, the warden could punish innocent people because of him. So with no other choice, he decided to leave. Before he left, the villagers gave him food, supplies, and a hunting dog to help him on his journey. Now Clemens was no longer alone. The dog became his loyal companion, and he no longer felt the same loneliness as before. The two of them traveled together for many more days. During the journey, they came across a wooden factory. The dog ran toward it, hoping to find some food. Clemens followed his dog and entered the factory. The workers inside recognized him and immediately took him to the owner. There, Clemens told them his entire story. After hearing everything he had been through, everyone felt sorry for him. They gave him a proper meal and arranged for him to board a train heading to Germany. Clemens was filled with happiness because, for the first time in a very long time, he truly believed that he was finally going home. But Clemens had no idea that the factory owner had secretly informed the warden about him. Meanwhile, the warden was already waiting at the train station with his soldiers. Before the train reached the station, Clemens looked outside and spotted the Russian soldiers in the distance. He immediately realized it was a trap. Without wasting a second, he jumped off the moving train and started running. Unfortunately, the soldiers saw him and quickly chased after him. Clemens ran across the railway tracks as fast as he could, but suddenly the warden appeared right in front of him. The moment Clemens saw him, he became terrified. He thought that after all these years of struggle, everything was about to end. Just then, his loyal dog jumped at the warden and bit him. Clemens used that moment to escape once again. A gunshot echoed from behind him. When Clemens turned around, he saw his dog lying dead on the ground. The sight broke his heart, but he knew he could not stop. He kept running with all the strength he had left. Finally, he climbed onto a bridge and jumped onto the roof of a train passing underneath. Once again, he escaped from the warden's hands. Time continued to pass and Clemens slowly moved closer to freedom. Before long, the year became 1922. By then, it had been 7 full years since he escaped from the prison. At that time, he was traveling through Central Asia. One day, he wandered into a village fair. There were many food stalls all around him. He wanted to eat something very badly, but he did not have a single coin in his pocket, so he quietly walked away. Just then, he noticed 2 young women selling pancakes. He stood there looking at them for a moment, but because he had no money, he turned around and started leaving. One of the girls felt sorry for him. She broke off a small piece of a pancake and handed it to him. At first, Clemens felt a little embarrassed. Then he smiled, thanked her, and ate the pancake. A wealthy man at the fair saw everything that happened. Later, Clemens went to a church, and that same man quietly followed him there. The man had once been a prisoner himself. Because of that, he decided to help Clemens instead of handing him over to the police. He took Clemens to his home. After many years, Clemens finally shaved and looked like his old self again. Then the man gave him a new passport so he could cross the Russian border and reach Germany. Clemens was deeply grateful for this kindness. After thanking the man, he continued his journey toward the border between Russia and Germany. A few weeks later, he finally arrived there. He handed his passport to the Russian border guard. At that moment, Clemens was filled with fear. He worried that the guard might recognize him or discover that the passport was not real. Once again, luck was on Clemens' side. The border guard did not suspect anything. He simply checked the passport and allowed him to cross the border. The moment Clemens heard those words, he could not hide his happiness. A smile appeared on his face after many years of pain and struggle. At last, he reached the bridge that would take him back to his homeland, Germany. He slowly began walking across it. But when he reached the middle of the bridge, a bright light suddenly shined into his eyes. He looked up and saw the warden standing right in front of him. Shocked, Clemens quickly turned around. That was when he realized he was still standing on Russian soil. The warden could arrest him at that very moment if he wanted to. Clemens felt completely hopeless. He believed that all the sacrifices and struggles of the past 7 years were about to end in failure. But then something happened that even Clemens never expected. The warden quietly stepped aside and allowed him to continue walking. At first, Clemens could not believe it. Even so, he slowly moved forward. The truth was that the warden had become deeply impressed by Clemens' courage, determination, and his incredible will to survive. That was why he decided not to arrest him. Before Clemens left, the warden said, "This battle was only between two soldiers. One was me and the other was you. You won. Now go and live your life." After hearing those words, Clemens crossed the border and finally returned to Germany. Some time later, he arrived near his home. From a distance, he saw his wife and daughter. A little later, they left the house to go to church. Clemens quietly followed them all the way there. He still did not call out to his daughter because she had always believed that one day her father would return. Then, his daughter suddenly turned around. The moment she saw him, she recognized her father. She immediately ran toward him and hugged him tightly. After so many years, his wife could hardly believe that her husband was still alive. Her happiness knew no limits. Finally, the three of them embraced each other. After years of suffering, sacrifice, and endless struggle, Clemens was finally reunited with his family. And with this emotional reunion, this movie, based on a true story, comes to an end. If you liked this video, please like it and subscribe to our channel to see more such videos. Thanks for watching.